Between the Adriatic and the Ionian Seas lies Europe's last secret paradise, where ancient fortresses crown mountains that plunge directly into turquoise waters, and villages exist in two versions, one on the map, another known only to those who venture beyond. Albania remains the Mediterranean's most overlooked territory, a land where beaches rival those of the Maldives and canyons match the Grand Canyon's grandeur, yet crowds remain conspicuously absent. Once the crossroads of Illyrians, Romans, Byzantines, and Ottomans, this compact nation holds more UNESCO sites per square mile than most of its neighbors. From waterfall-fed valleys in the Albanian Alps to medieval castles perched above pristine coastlines, the country unfolds like a carefully guarded manuscript of natural and cultural wonders. The accursed mountains rise sharply from coastal plains, their peaks sheltering remote settlements where tower houses still stand as monuments to ancient codes of honor. Along the Riviera, former military bunkers dot beaches that stretch empty for miles, remnants of isolation that preserved what mass tourism destroyed elsewhere. In this land of eagles, as locals call their homeland Shkodër, time moves differently in mountain villages, where sworn virgins still lead communities, and coastal towns where Byzantine churches share hillsides with Ottoman mosques. The journey ahead traces this remarkable tapestry from the glacial valleys of Valbona to the ancient ruins of Butrint, revealing why Albania's moment of discovery has finally arrived. Watch until the very end to uncover the village with two faces, where reality splits between what maps show and what only the persistent traveler finds. In the heart of Albania's northern wilderness lies Valbona Valley, the crown jewel of the Albanian Alps. This glacial valley cuts deep into the accursed mountains, creating one of Europe's most dramatic alpine landscapes. Here, limestone peaks rise over 6,000 feet, straight from the valley floor. Traditional stone houses dot meadows, where shepherds still guide their flocks along paths used for centuries. The Albanian Alps, known locally as Bjeshket I Namuna, or the Accursed Mountains, form a natural fortress along the northern frontier. These peaks tell stories through their names. Some honor ancient heroes, while others warn of old dangers. The range stretches across 3 countries, yet nowhere does it reveal more raw beauty than here. Crystal-clear streams tumble from hanging valleys, feeding the Valbona River that gives this sanctuary its name. Life in these mountains follows rhythms unchanged since medieval times. Stone kula towers rise from village centers, their thick walls once protecting families during blood feuds. Today, these same towers welcome hikers seeking shelter along mountain trails. The isolation that once trapped communities now preserves traditions lost elsewhere. Women still weave traditional costumes by hand, while men craft wooden tools using methods passed down through generations. Summer brings wildflower meadows that paint the valleys in purple and gold, while winter transforms everything into a pristine wilderness accessible only to the most determined visitors. Deeper still into these mountains, Theth National Park preserves a world untouched by modernity. This protected wilderness spreads across glacial valleys and limestone peaks in the heart of the accursed mountains. Stone houses cluster in the valley floor, their slate roofs barely visible among forests that have stood since medieval times. The park protects not just nature, but an entire way of life, where mountain communities follow traditions passed down through centuries. The Blue Eye of Theth emerges from the earth like a secret the mountains kept hidden. This natural spring pool glows with an otherworldly turquoise that seems impossible at this altitude. Fed by underground rivers flowing through limestone caves, the water maintains its brilliant color year-round. Local legends speak of this pool as a gateway between worlds, where the mountain spirits come to bathe. The short hike to reach it passes through beech forests, where sunlight filters through leaves, creating patterns on the forest floor. Rising from the valley floor, the lock-in tower stands as a stone monument to Albania's ancient canon law. Built in the early 1900s, this fortified structure served as sanctuary for those caught in blood feuds. Men would lock themselves inside these towers for months or even years, waiting for reconciliation or death. The tower's thick walls and narrow windows tell stories of isolation and survival. Today, it remains empty, a reminder of customs that shaped mountain society for generations. Grunas waterfall cascades 30 meters down limestone cliffs, its waters carving deeper into ancient rock with each passing season. The trail to reach it winds through alpine meadows where wildflowers bloom in summer and snow blankets everything in winter. Behind the falling water, caves hollow out the cliff face, creating natural shelters used by shepherds for centuries. The waterfall's roar echoes through the valley, a constant voice in this landscape where nature and tradition intertwine. Where the Albanian Alps meet emerald waters, a hidden waterway winds through limestone canyons that few travelers have witnessed. Lake Komani stretches for 25 miles through the heart of northern Albania, its narrow channels carving between vertical cliffs that rise 1,000 feet from the water's surface. This artificial lake, created in the 1980s by damming the Drin River, transformed an ancient valley into one of Europe's most spectacular boat journeys. The ferry route from Komani to Fiesole serves as both a lifeline for isolated mountain communities and a passage through landscapes that rival Norway's fjords. Morning mist clings to the water as ferries depart from the small dock at Komani, beginning a 3-hour voyage through geological time. The lake narrows into gorges where sunlight barely penetrates, then opens into wide basins surrounded by peaks that seem to touch the sky. Eagles circle overhead, while the boat navigates channels so tight that rock walls pass within arm's reach on both sides. Villages appear like mirages on distant shores, their stone houses accessible only by boat or treacherous mountain paths that have connected these communities for centuries. The journey reveals Albania's raw beauty in its purest form, where nature remains untamed and tourism infrastructure barely exists. Shepherds wave from clifftop meadows while their flocks graze on slopes that drop vertically to the water below. Ancient fortifications crown several peaks, remnants of times when these mountain passes controlled trade routes between the Adriatic coast and Kosovo's plains. As the ferry rounds each bend, new vistas unfold, waterfalls tumbling from hidden springs, caves that pierce the limestone, and forests that have never known an axe. These same alpine waters eventually flow towards Shkodër, the cultural capital of the north, where mountain fortresses watch over vast waters. This ancient city guards the gateway between the Adriatic coast and the Albanian Alps, standing where empires once collided and cultures merged. Founded over 2,000 years ago by the Illyrians, Shkodër has witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations while maintaining its role as Albania's window to both mountains and sea. The city spreads along the shores of the Balkans' largest lake, its red-tiled roofs climbing hillsides, crowned by one of Europe's most dramatic castle ruins. Rozafa Castle rises from its rocky perch like a stone crown above three rivers. The fortress commands views that stretch from Montenegro's peaks to the Albanian coastal plains below. Legend tells of Rozafa, a young woman immured alive within these walls to ensure the castle would stand forever. Her sacrifice echoes through the limestone corridors, where Illyrian kings once ruled and Ottoman governors later held court. Each empire left its mark here. Roman cisterns, Venetian ramparts, and Ottoman mosques blend into a single monument to survival. Below the castle walls, Lake Shkodër unfolds as the Balkans' largest freshwater expanse. The lake changes personality with the seasons, sometimes doubling in size when mountain snows melt. Pelicans glide above waters that shimmer between Albania and Montenegro, while fishermen work from wooden boats unchanged for generations. Small islands dot the surface, each hiding Byzantine churches or forgotten monasteries among the reeds. The lake sustains villages where time moves at the pace of seasonal floods and ancient fishing traditions. Not far from Shkodër's ancient walls stands a masterpiece of Ottoman engineering that spans the centuries. The Mesi Bridge rises from the banks of the Kir River near Shkodër, its elegant stone arch defying time itself. Built in 1770 by Mehmet Pasha Bushati, this bridge stands as northern Albania's most photographed monument. Its single arch stretches 108 meters across the water, creating a perfect curve that has weathered floods, earthquakes, and centuries of change. The bridge tells its story through limestone blocks fitted without mortar, a construction technique that allows the structure to flex during earthquakes. 13 small arches line the approach, designed to handle the river's seasonal floods. Local stonemasons spent 3 years shaping each block by hand, creating joints so precise that not even a blade can slip between them. The central arch soars 13 meters above the water, high enough for Ottoman merchant caravans to pass beneath during spring floods. Morning light transforms the Mesi Bridge into something beyond architecture. Mist rises from the Kir River, wrapping around the stone pillars like silk scarves. Shepherds still guide their flocks across the worn cobblestones, following routes their ancestors used for generations. The bridge connects more than riverbanks. It links Albania's Ottoman past with its present, standing as proof that true craftsmanship transcends empires and ages. High above the coastal plains, where mountain ridges guard ancient secrets, Krujë emerges as Albania's soul carved in stone. This mountain town sits just 32 kilometers from Tirana, yet feels centuries removed from modern life. Here, cobblestone paths wind upward through bazaars that have traded goods since Ottoman times. The town's position on Mount Sarisaltik offers commanding views across the landscape, explaining why it became the center of Albanian resistance for over 500 years. Krujë Castle rises from the rocky summit like a natural extension of the mountain itself. Built in the 5th century, these walls witnessed Albania's defining moments throughout history. The fortress served as the capital of the first Albanian state under the Progon dynasty. Its ramparts stretch along the cliff edge, creating a stone crown visible from valleys far below. Within the castle grounds, the Skanderbeg Museum occupies the site where Albania's national hero made his legendary stand. For 25 years during the 15th century, Gjirokastër Skanderbeg defended these walls against Ottoman forces. The museum's architecture mimics a medieval tower, its interior displaying armor, weapons, and documents from the resistance. Original castle walls frame modern exhibits, where visitors trace the path of battles that shaped Albanian identity. Our path now turns eastward to where Albania meets Macedonia, at Pogradec, a lakeside town that guards the western shores of one of Europe's most ancient bodies of water. This quiet settlement spreads along gentle slopes that descend toward crystal-clear depths. Morning mist often blankets the waterfront promenade, where fishermen prepare their nets as they have for generations. The town itself moves at the unhurried pace of lake life, its tree-lined streets leading from the shore up into surrounding hills. Lake Ohrid stretches before us, a natural wonder that predates the Ice Age by 3 million years. Scientists call it Europe's oldest lake, a living museum where species exist nowhere else on Earth. The water runs so clear that pebbles shine through from depths of 20 meters. Ancient churches dot the shoreline on both the Albanian and Macedonian sides, their reflections creating perfect doubles in the still morning water. Lin Village waits along the peninsula, a place where maps show one reality while experience reveals another. Stone houses cluster on the hillside, their foundations dating back 2,000 years to Illyrian times. The village church holds mosaics from the 6th century, geometric patterns that survived earthquakes and invasions. Local fishermen know paths down to hidden coves where the only sounds come from water meeting rock. The peninsula creates its own microclimate, where pomegranates and figs grow wild among the ruins. From Lin's highest point, both countries spread out across the water, borders meaningless against the lake's timeless expanse. This village exists in two versions, the one tourists photograph from the main road and the one that reveals itself to those who walk its ancient paths down to secret shores. Leaving the lakeshore behind, we descend into the Osum Valley, where Berat rises like a vision from another century. Known as the City of a Thousand Windows, this UNESCO World Heritage Site spreads across hillsides where Ottoman houses stack upon each other like white stone terraces. The Osum River divides the city into distinct quarters, each preserving different chapters of Albania's layered past. Here, 2,400 years of continuous habitation have created one of the Balkans' most remarkable urban landscapes. Berat Castle commands the highest ground, its walls encompassing an entire neighborhood where people still live among Byzantine churches and Ottoman mosques. The fortress dates to the 4th century BC, though its current form took shape during the 13th century. Within these ancient ramparts, residents tend gardens between medieval structures and hang laundry from windows that have watched empires rise and fall. The castle remains a living community rather than a museum, where daily life continues much as it has for generations. Stone pathways wind through the castle complex, past the Church of the Holy Trinity and the Red Mosque, their contrasting architectures telling Albania's story of religious coexistence. From the fortress walls, views stretch across the Timor Mountains to the coastal plains beyond. Below, the Mangalem and Gorica quarters face each other across the river, their Ottoman houses creating the famous facade of windows that gave Berat its nickname. Each window frames its own perspective on this timeless city where Byzantine frescoes share walls with Islamic calligraphy. The Osum River that flows past Berat has carved one of Albania's most dramatic natural wonders. Osum Canyon stretches through the heart of the country, a geological masterpiece carved over millions of years. This gorge runs for 16 miles between the towns of Çoravoda and Bogov, its walls rising up to 300 feet high. The Osum River flows through the canyon floor, creating pools of emerald water between massive limestone walls. The canyon reveals its secrets slowly as morning light filters down between the narrow walls. Rock formations twist and curve in patterns that seem almost deliberate, as if nature itself became an artist here. Small caves dot the cliffsides, some accessible by foot, others requiring ropes and determination. Local shepherds have used these caves for shelter across centuries, leaving behind traces of fires and simple carvings. During spring months, the canyon transforms into an adventure playground when snowmelt raises water levels. Rafters navigate the rushing waters, while hikers follow ancient paths along the rim. In summer, the river calms enough for swimming in natural pools formed between the rocks. The most spectacular viewpoint sits near Bogov, where the canyon walls frame the river like a natural cathedral, and eagles circle overhead in the thermals rising from the sun-warmed stone. Following the river valleys southward, we reach Përmet, where Albania's untamed rivers carve their most spectacular passages. This small town sits at the confluence of natural wonders that few outside Albania have witnessed. Stone houses climb the hillsides, while thermal springs bubble from the earth below. The real treasures lie in the waters and canyons that surround this gateway to Albania's wild heart. The Vjosa River flows past Përmet as Europe's last wild river, untouched by dams from source to sea. Its turquoise waters rush through valleys that have remained unchanged for millennia. Local fishermen still cast nets from rocky outcrops where their grandfathers taught them the river's secrets. The Vjosa carries more than water. It holds the memory of a continent before concrete channeled every major waterway. Beyond town, Llogara Canyon opens like a natural cathedral carved by water and time. Thermal pools dot the canyon floor, their warm waters creating misty havens even in winter. The rock walls rise hundreds of feet, striped with colors that shift from rust to cream. Ancient paths lead deeper into the gorge, where sulfur springs have carved smooth basins perfect for soaking, while eagles circle overhead. The stone path leads us to Gjirokaster, where an entire city rises from the mountainside. This UNESCO World Heritage Site rises from a hillside in southern Albania, its slate-roofed houses climbing the slopes like steps carved from the mountain itself. Ottoman-era mansions stand shoulder to shoulder along cobblestone streets, their distinctive architecture earning the city its stone moniker. Here, each building tells part of Albania's complex story through walls that have witnessed centuries of change. Gjirokastër Castle commands the valley from its perch 600 meters above the city. This fortress stands as one of the largest castle complexes in the Balkans, its walls stretching across the hilltop for nearly 500 meters. Construction began in the 12th century, though most visible structures date from Ali Pasha's rule in the early 1800s. The castle served many purposes through time: military stronghold, political prison, and now museum housing artifacts from Albania's varied past. Inside the fortress walls, history reveals itself through stone corridors and vaulted chambers. The clock tower rises above the inner courtyard, its presence marking time for the valley below since the early 19th century. Former prison cells now display photographs and documents from darker chapters, while the Weapons Museum showcases military equipment from Ottoman times through World War II. Walking these ramparts offers views across the Drino Valley to the distant peaks of the Llogara Mountains, the same vista that sentries watched for approaching armies through the centuries. Near the southern border, the Blue Eye Spring emerges as a natural phenomenon that defies explanation. This mesmerizing pool sits deep within a forest near Sarandë, its waters so intensely blue they seem lit from within. The spring emerges from an underwater cave system that plunges to unknown depths. Local divers have descended over 160 feet without reaching the bottom. The water maintains a constant temperature of 50 degrees Fahrenheit year-round, creating a stark contrast with the warm Mediterranean climate above. Crystal-clear currents bubble up from the depths with such force they create a perpetual boiling effect on the surface. Ancient oaks and sycamores lean over the pool, their branches forming a natural canopy. Sunlight filters through the leaves, making the blue waters glow with an otherworldly radiance. Scientists estimate the spring pumps out 6 cubic meters of water per second, feeding the Bistrici River that flows toward the Ionian Sea. The surrounding park preserves this natural wonder within a landscape of moss-covered rocks and wooden walkways. Visitors often stand transfixed by the hypnotic swirling of the azure waters. Local legends speak of fairy guardians who protect the spring's secrets, and watching the endless upwelling from mysterious depths, such tales feel entirely possible. Where the journey through Albania's wonders reaches its southernmost point, the ancient city of Butrint emerges from wetlands and forest like a dream preserved in stone. This UNESCO World Heritage Site sits on a small peninsula between the Vivari Channel and Lake Butrint, just miles from the Greek border. Here, 3,000 years of continuous habitation have left layers of civilization stacked upon each other. Each empire that claimed this strategic point added its own monuments to those that came before. The site unfolds through shaded paths where excavated ruins tell stories of Greeks, Romans, Byzantines, and Venetians. The ancient theatre, carved into the hillside during the 3rd century BC, still hosts performances under open skies. Stone seats rise in perfect semicircles, their acoustics so precise that whispers from the stage reach the highest rows. Nearby, the baptistry floor reveals one of the finest mosaics in the Mediterranean, its intricate patterns depicting peacocks and vines in countless tiny tiles. Beyond the main archaeological zone, the Butrint National Park protects freshwater lagoons and dense Mediterranean forests. Wild boar roam between ancient walls, while herons fish in channels that once carried merchant ships. The Venetian castle guards the channel entrance, its triangular fortress, a final addition to millennia of defensive structures. From its ramparts, views stretch across the strait to Corfu, revealing why every Mediterranean power sought control of this passage between two seas. Just beyond Butrint's ancient stones, Ksamil reveals beaches that rival the Mediterranean's finest. This small settlement sits just across from Corfu, yet feels worlds away from the Mediterranean's crowded beach towns. White sand beaches curve around bays so clear that boats appear to float in mid-air. 4 small islands dot the waters just offshore, each one accessible by a short swim or paddle. The beaches here tell a story of geological patience. Over millennia, waves ground ancient rocks into powder-fine sand that now lines hidden coves. During summer months, the water temperature reaches perfect swimming conditions. Local families gather on these shores as they have for generations, their children playing in the same spots where their grandparents once cast fishing nets. The main beach stretches wide, but smaller inlets reward those who walk the coastal paths. Beyond the shoreline, Ksamil reveals its quieter character. Simple houses painted in soft pastels line unpaved roads where chickens still wander freely. Olive groves and citrus orchards fill the spaces between homes, their fruit ripening under the southern sun. The village awakens early as fishermen prepare their boats and settles into afternoon stillness when the heat drives everyone indoors. This rhythm continues unchanged, even as more visitors discover what locals have always known about their corner of paradise. These pristine shores mark the beginning of the Albanian Riviera, where mountains plunge into one of Europe's most dramatic coastlines. This rugged shoreline runs from Vlora to Saranda, revealing beaches and bays that remained hidden from the world for decades. Crystal-clear waters wash against pebbled shores and rocky coves. Ancient villages perch on cliffsides above, their stone houses watching over waters that shift from deep blue to brilliant turquoise. The coastal road winds through olive groves and citrus orchards, climbing high above the sea before plunging back toward hidden beaches. Small fishing boats rest on shores where concrete bunkers stand like silent sentinels. These dome-shaped relics number in the thousands along the coast. Built during Albania's years of isolation, they now serve as peculiar monuments to a closed chapter of history. Life along the Riviera moves to rhythms set by the sea and seasons. Morning brings fishermen, returning with their catch, while afternoon sun bakes the limestone cliffs white. Villages like Himarë and Dermi cling to mountainsides, their narrow streets leading to Byzantine churches and Ottoman-era homes. Here, Greek and Albanian languages blend in daily conversation, reflecting centuries of shared culture along these shores. Along this coast stands Porto Palermo Castle, rising from a small peninsula surrounded by crystalline waters. This fortress guards a bay so perfectly sheltered that nature seems to have carved it specifically for protection. Built in the early 1800s by Ali Pasha, the Ottoman ruler who once controlled these lands, the castle stands as a monument to strategic brilliance. Its triangular design follows the peninsula's natural shape, creating walls that merge seamlessly with the rocky coastline. The approach to Porto Palermo reveals why this location commanded such importance through centuries. The bay forms an almost complete circle, with only a narrow opening to the Ionian Sea. Clear waters lap against stone foundations that have weathered 200 years of storms. Inside the fortress, vaulted chambers and narrow passages speak of military precision, while cannon ports frame views of the surrounding coastline. Local stories tell of Ali Pasha building this castle for his wife Vasiliki, though historians debate whether romance or strategy drove its construction. What remains certain is the fortress's role in controlling sea routes along this coast. From its ramparts, watchers could spot approaching vessels miles away. Today, those same viewpoints offer visitors panoramic scenes of the Riviera, where mountains drop straight into azure waters and hidden coves wait just beyond each rocky point. Further north, along the coast, Himarë perfectly captures the essence of this overlooked Mediterranean paradise. Ancient Greek roots run deep through these limestone cliffs and turquoise bays. The old castle district watches over modern beach settlements from its hilltop perch. Stone houses cascade down mountainsides toward waters so clear that boats appear to float in mid-air. Below the town's historic heights, Livadi Beach unfolds as Himarë's crown jewel. White pebbles meet crystalline waters along this sweeping crescent bay. Mountains frame the beach on three sides, creating a natural amphitheater of stone and sea. The water shifts through every shade of blue as depth changes, from pale aquamarine near shore to deep sapphire, where the seafloor drops away. Morning light transforms Livadi into something almost otherworldly. Fishermen launch traditional boats, while the beach remains nearly empty. The bunkers that dot the shoreline stand as silent witnesses to Albania's isolated past. These concrete relics now serve as unusual beach umbrellas or diving platforms for local children. The contrast between military history and present-day paradise defines much of the Albanian coast. Between civilized beaches, raw wilderness waits at Gjipe, a hidden paradise between towering cliffs. Gjipe sits tucked away from the main coastal road, accessible only by a winding path that descends through limestone walls. This secluded haven remains one of Albania's best-kept secrets, where nature carved out a perfect sanctuary. The journey down reveals why some places deserve their isolation. Gjipe Beach spreads out where the canyon meets the sea, a crescent of white pebbles framed by vertical rock faces. Crystal-clear waters shift from turquoise to deep sapphire as they deepen away from shore. No hotels or restaurants disturb this natural amphitheater. Only a few simple beach huts offer shade to those who make the trek down. The beach remains wild and untouched, its beauty preserved by the effort required to reach it. Gjipe Canyon cuts inland from the beach like a natural cathedral carved by water over millennia. Sheer limestone walls rise hundreds of feet on either side, their surfaces marked by centuries of erosion. A freshwater stream flows through the canyon floor, creating pools that invite tired hikers to cool off. Rock climbers find paradise on these walls, while others simply walk the canyon path, surrounded by Mediterranean vegetation clinging to every ledge and crevice. The Albanian Riviera's most treasured secrets begin to reveal themselves as we arrive in Dermi. This coastal village cascades down mountainsides where olive groves meet the Ionian Sea. Stone houses climb terrace slopes, while Byzantine churches peek through ancient trees. The settlement splits between its historic upper village and the beachfront below, creating two distinct worlds connected by winding mountain paths. Just beyond Dermi's main beach lies Dry Maids Beach, a stretch of white pebbles that locals kept quiet for generations. The cove curves between rocky headlands, where crystal waters shift from turquoise to deep sapphire. Pine trees lean over the shoreline, their shade reaching toward waves that lap gently against smooth stones. Former military bunkers, now weathered and empty, dot the hillsides above this hidden bay. The beach remains wonderfully undeveloped compared to its Mediterranean neighbors. Morning light filters through coastal pines, while the water stays calm and clear enough to see fish swimming near the shore. Small caves pocket the surrounding cliffs, accessible only at low tide. This simplicity defines Dry Maids, where nature's original design needs no improvement. The road climbs steeply from these coastal villages to reach Llogara Pass. This mountain gateway climbs over 3,300 feet above sea level, carving through the Sironian Mountains. The road twists between limestone peaks and Mediterranean pines, marking the boundary where two seas meet. Ancient traders once crossed these heights on foot, connecting the Adriatic coast with the Ionian shores below. The pass itself reveals Albania's raw geological power. Tectonic forces push these mountains straight up from the sea, creating one of Europe's most dramatic elevation changes. Pine forests give way to bare rock faces as the road climbs higher. At the summit, both seas spread out below in a panorama that stretches from Corfu to the Albanian Riviera. The air grows thin and cool, even in summer, carrying the scent of wild herbs and sea salt. Descending toward the Ionian coast, the landscape transforms completely. The road drops nearly 1,000 feet in minutes, switchbacking down sheer cliff faces. Below, pristine beaches appear like white crescents against turquoise water. This descent ranks among the most spectacular drives in the Mediterranean, where every turn reveals new angles of mountain meeting sea. Local shepherds still guide their flocks along ancient paths that parallel the modern road, maintaining traditions older than the asphalt itself. Beyond the mountains and coastlines lies Tirana, the beating heart of modern Albania. Tirana spreads across the valley, between Mount Dite and the coastal plains, a city that defies every expectation of a Balkan capital. Once Europe's most isolated metropolis, it now pulses with an energy that seems to make up for decades of lost time. Concrete bunkers share sidewalks with Ottoman mosques, while communist-era apartments wear coats of vibrant paint that transform entire neighborhoods into open-air galleries. The transformation began in the early 2000s when a local artist turned mayor decided to paint the city in colors that matched Albania's newfound freedom. Buildings that once stood gray and uniform now display geometric patterns in yellows, oranges, and greens that catch Mediterranean sunlight. Skanderbeg Square anchors this rebirth, its vast expanse redesigned to flow like water between the National History Museum and the Etimbe Mosque. The square tells Albania's entire story through architecture, from Ottoman minarets to Italian fascist buildings to socialist monuments, all sharing the same ground where citizens gather each evening. Beyond the painted facades, Tirana reveals layers that few capitals can match. The Baloku district, once forbidden to all but party elites, now thrums with cafes and galleries where young Albanians craft their nation's future. Mount Dite rises to the east, its cable car lifting visitors above the urban sprawl to alpine meadows where shepherds still graze flocks. In the new bazaar, vendors sell mountain honey beside communist memorabilia, while the artificial lake, built by volunteers in the 1950s, provides an unexpected oasis where families picnic and lovers stroll. This is Tirana's gift, a city that wears its scars proudly while racing toward tomorrow. As old stone paths give way to olive groves and the last echoes of call to prayer fade into sea wind, Albania stands still for a moment, untouched, holding its breath. Every bend in the road seems to ask a question. Every mountain shadow hides a story still untold. In lands like this, discovery doesn't end at the trailhead or the village gate. It lingers in silence and salt, long after your first goodbye. You can feel it on the worn stones of Gjirokaster Castle or drifting beneath the hanging cliffs of Gjipe Canyon. It hums in the birch trees above Valbona Valley and echoes off the canyon walls in Osum. And on lonely beaches near Durmi and Himarë, where bunkers crumble slowly into tide pools, only the waves seem to know what came before. Click on the video that's appearing now to continue your journey of the wonders of the world.